Good day, everyone. This is once again your friendly teacher in your English subject, Teacher AJ. We are now on Module 4, Lesson 2. We will be differentiating, compare, and contrast. So at this moment, the next activities will help you how to differentiate, compare from contrast by reading the given materials and graphic organizers, which will be presented in this lesson. And then we are expected to differentiate, compare, and contrast using the various graphic organizers. Second is to perform all the activities given using the various graphic organizers. And lastly is to recognize the importance of knowing the difference between things to come up into a wise decision making. In the previous lesson, we talked about the definition of compare and contrast. So how far is your learning about our topic? Have you learned something about our previous lesson? And we all know that comparing and contrasting are part of decision making in life. For an example, in choosing your path or career by next year. For us to know about the ideas of comparison and contrast, we will use Venn diagram organizer to easily understand the concept of both. First, we will define the organizer. As we all know, comparing and contrasting are ways of looking at objects and thinking about how they are alike and different. Comparing things means pointing out their similarities or what they have in common, while contrasting things mean pointing out their differences or where they diverge from one another. For instance, all these items are alike because they are kinds of food, but there are many ways that they are different. For instance, they belong to different food groups. Some must be cooked before eating, and some can be eaten raw. When you write compare and contrast, you will pay attention to these kinds of details. There are two main reasons that people use comparison and contrast. First is to explain. Second is to evaluate. When you choose items to compare and contrast, make sure that you choose items that have similarities. You have to choose things that will make sense for comparison and contrast. For instance, it wouldn't make sense to compare a truck with a crayon or crayons with a birdhouse. Be sure to compare things that belong together. Compare crayons to pencils or pens, or compare trucks and cars. When you compare items, you look for their similarities, the things that make them the same. The different graphic organizers used to compare and contrast. We have Venn diagrams. A Venn diagram is a graphic organizer that is made up of 2 or 3 overlapping circles. In mathematics, Venn diagrams are used to visualize the relationship between 2 or 3 sets. We have also the charts. A chart diagram is also called a matrix diagram or a table. It's a type of graphic organizer that condenses and organizes data about multiple traits associated with many items or topics. Charts can be used to show attributes of items and to compare and contrast topics and to evaluate information. You need to take down notes of the signal words used for comparing. We have also equally, in the same way, similarly, as, in a similar, like, to compare, both, in comparison, likewise, and same way. There are also signal words for contrasting. We have although, even so, instead, otherwise, yet, however, still, but, in contrast, nevertheless, unlike, despite, nonetheless, on the contrary, and whereas. When to use comparison and contrast. Use comparison and contrast to show that one thing is better or worse than another. Things that seem alike are actually different. Things that seem different are actually alike. Concentrate on the most important parts of a comparison-contrast pattern. The purpose of comparison, the points of comparison, and the actual similarities and differences of the item being compared. Now, I know that you've learned a lot in differentiating compare and contrast. To know whether you were able to remember our topic, let us fill in the missing words. Number 1. It is taken from the Latin word compare, which means to liken or to compare. What's your answer? Very good. Compare is the correct answer. Second, comparing things means pointing out their very good similarities or what they have in common. And number 3, contrast was derived from the Latin words contra and stare, which means against and to stand. In Middle English, contrast was used for meaning to fight against or to withstand in a battle. Very nice! You have great answers. Congratulations, class! You did great! Now, let us have an activity. You are going to fill in the missing data in the following Venn diagram, which scientifically compares a butterfly and a moth. Use critical thinking and select only relevant information based on the topic from the following list. Has 3 pairs of legs. Hatches from cocoon. Featured in Rizal's story. Hatches from chrysalis. Looks pretty and has wings.